From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, and good Sunday morning to you. Another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 18th. And we had quite the week this week with a lot of activity. Our first winter storm. In some cases, it was an unprecedented November snowfall. We'll get into that a little bit as a recap. I do want to touch on early this week because we have some little sneaky stuff coming in here for some areas. And then we're going to go into a storm recap, and then we'll go into the long range and even longer range after that. Because I do want to touch on the next storm signal that we're looking at and the things that are going to be contributing to that possibility with time. So let's get into our long range outlook from Friday. Now, this is done every single Friday on the website, and we link to it where you have a complete, usually late morning or thereabout or close to noon on Friday. This is the public long range from Friday. Now, there are going to be tweaks as you go along in time. We update that in the premium forum on Mondays, Wednesdays, as long as there's no big storms coming or anything like that. But this is what we're looking at from Friday. But there will be some slight variations of this. I think your temperatures are pretty close here as what's shown. The only difference is, we have well below average through Thanksgiving, which obviously that's going to be the case. There's no issue there. I do think, even though we had the 23rd, which is Black Friday on here, Black Friday is probably not going to be near above average. It's going to be stepping up a little bit from when we bottom out and tank on Thanksgiving. We're going to be stepping up slightly a little bit. We're still below average here on this day. It might be next weekend or maybe up through the beginning of the following week, so maybe 24th to 26th time frame instead. But it's still very transient, slightly above average period, near to slightly above average period. This will feel a lot warmer than it has been recently. But guess what? We go right back into the slightly below average after that point. So, and that goes right through the beginning of December at least. And I think that's going to continue for a while. And the pattern is going to be reloading here at some point. So we'll get into that in this video. Not included here is any storm signals shown here, but we do have the two systems that we're going to be dealing with this week. But the timing has changed on these. So you do have overnight tonight. You have a few far interior snow showers that could give you a coating to 1 inch. But there's another actually trailing piece of energy along that frontal boundary that could come through on Monday night and give some more snow. We'll get into that. For those same areas generally, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then this period here, we were looking at Friday, Saturday, perhaps getting a rain system. If we get this, is going to be next Sunday or Monday, or the following Sunday or Monday. It's a little delayed, so we have time to look at this. It's not going to be Friday. All right, so, and this looks like rain right now. As we go forward here through the months as a whole, of course, November is going to be well above average snowfall now because we had unprecedented snowfall in some areas for the month of November anyway. And then we have slightly above average listed here for December. If we need to move this up, or down, but I think we have a better chance of having up to just above average instead of slightly for December. We will do that with time, but right now our analogs would suggest that December starts off snowier than average also. So this winter is not going to be something you have to wait until January, February to get some decent snow around here, because not only do we just have it here, but I think December is going to be an active month as well, with near to slightly below average temperatures for the month. Now, here's the nuisance snow that I was talking about. Now, this is not tonight. This is 24-hour snowfall. I can do 24-hour here. So we're going to look at just Monday night. And you got a little wave that's moving along a boundary that's just to its south that could produce some snow, a couple inches of snow, maybe 1, 2, 3 inches of snow here across parts of northeast PA, the eastern Poconos, and northwestern New Jersey, northern New Jersey. So we'll keep a close eye on this. This is what the European model is suggesting. And the NAM is pretty close to this, actually not quite as aggressive. It's more closer to like an inch or two maybe, a little bit further north up here, not so much northern New Jersey. So we'll keep an eye on it. The GFS, of course, is more aggressive and and expansive westward with this. Again, this is Monday night, but this is also including whatever falls tonight. Maybe a coating to inch in these same areas right up here where I'm circling. These are closest to the border. You probably get a coating to inch tonight. But then when you get into Monday night into Tuesday morning, there's another wave that comes through and gives you some more snow, but it's showing some aggressive amounts here. I don't think it's going to be that high, but we'll keep an eye on it just in case, but it would just be for those northern areas, obviously north of 78. Matter of fact, it's probably pretty far above 78 and more like up in the I-80 corridor here. So we'll keep a close eye on that, but that is earlier this week. That is Monday night. I think you have the opportunity for that to occur. So let's take a look at the week ahead. It's going to be cold. We know that. So very cold Thanksgiving coming. And there's another one of these deep troughs coming into the eastern United States. When you ever have these purples on here, the Barney colors here, boy, it really bottoms out. And this is looking at Thanksgiving morning. It's going to be very, very cold. You have temperatures in the teens and 20s. Okay, highs that are projected by at least by the GFS to knock it out of the 20s in a lot of areas north of 78. So that's your below 30 area up here. These are for highs on Thanksgiving. So it's going to be pretty cold here Thanksgiving. This is a change. In the last 48 hours, there were some indications that maybe it would be a little bit more milder than this by about 10 degrees, but they started noticing that, hey, we got this big Barney's coming to visit. I call those Barney because of the purples here. But this just indicates some very, very cold temperatures on this scale here below average. So that means, with the Wednesday to Thursday time frame, it's going to be pretty cold this week. So we will be done with that. The good thing here is the biggest travel day of the year is Wednesday and Thanksgiving and Black Friday for that matter are all dry. So we have no weather concerns on any of those 3 days. So if you are traveling, great news for those of you who are traveling. You might if you're heading far northern New England, you might run into some trouble. Just some snow showers up there to deal with and contend with. So if you're traveling to see family up there, that's probably the only area you would have to really run into any issues. So I want to take a look at this storm. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This is the storm that we had on Thursday into Friday morning. And we had setup this is the radar here. 1448 UTC. So this is 8:48 in the morning. I'm sorry, 9. Well, whatever. So it's early morning. You had a big high pressure that was sitting up here. Okay, this was responsible for bringing cold air down into the system at the surface, but we were having warm air coming in aloft, which we thought would come in pretty uniformly late afternoon or evening. Well, it did come in. But we were looking at this morning. I was talking to my the colleagues on the team and saying, hey, we got almost an inch of snow in DC. Now they didn't get quite to an inch or right around an inch or something like that, but it wasn't supposed to snow there. Why is this happening? So we took a look at this and we were like, you know what? This precipitation is pretty heavy from the onset. It's not coming in light like it was expected to be, and then get heavier gradually before going over to sleet. That was what we expected to happen, and instead, this thing came in, pretty strong with really heavy rates from the get-go. And we're looking at the dew. I live here just north of Allentown here, so I'm looking at the dew points that morning. It was like 31 degrees or something like that. The dew point was 16 degrees. So I said to my other meteorologist on the staff, I'm like, hey, we got a problem here. We have a wet bulbing problem here. So when this precipitation breaks through with the dew points that low, you're going to get this virga. Initially, which means it's snowing out of the clouds, but it's not reaching the ground because it's evaporating. Well, what that does is it causes an evaporational cooling process. So as it evaporates, it cools the air and the air parcels around it, and the temperature drops significantly. So I'm like, man, if we get this to break through and you get these heavier rates up through here, we're going to have a problem, and it's going to be more snow than we thought. So we had the final call out the night before. This is something we saw in the morning and observed that the models really didn't pick up on it. And everybody's like, oh, the NAM nailed it. It had all this high snow totals. Right for the wrong reason, folks. And I really don't have time to get into a deep recap of what that was. It did have the thermal grading here, but as far as timing was concerned, trust me, it was not. It was counting sleet as snow and freezing rain as snow to come up with those numbers. So it wasn't doing it for the right reasons. But we saw the wet bulbing issue in the morning. We saw that the dew point so low, and then we saw this heavy precip coming. We're like, uh-oh, this is not going to work out. So we had to bump up totals. And we did. We had to adjust. That's what we're going to do. It's what we're going to continue to do going forward. I will say, as constructive feedback that I got, this is the kind of snow we got, by the way. Unprecedented because some of these areas have the snowiest, not only snowiest day on record for that date, but I mean for the entire month of November. Some areas here are, an inch or less in normal snowfall for the month of January, typically. And we had, 6-8 inches of snow, maybe more. obviously more up here. But as far as constructive criticism, what I was getting at with that, if we call something a first call or a final call, when we say final call, that usually indicates final, done, not changing. This is what it's going to be. The problem is too many people take that as like it's a homework, or a graded homework assignment, or I've said that a couple times in social media. It's not something that's graded. I don't understand why you need to be graded on it. Like, how good did you do? How bad did you do? It's sometimes you have to adjust to conditions. I'm not going to keep a map up there that says 1 to 2 inches for one area, and then the area there's already 6 inches of snow on the ground. What kind of sense does that make to keep it up there? It just doesn't. So we are going to adjust. We're just not going to, if needed. I mean, hopefully the night before, what we have is what's called, and there will be times we'll say, hey, it stands as called. But there's going to be other times that it's going to be, we have to adjust to see current conditions in the morning. We're looking at the current conditions before it starts, and when we see that the dew points are so low, and we have all this heavy precipitation come in that wasn't modeled to be this heavy early on, you're going to have some issues. We're going to have to change it. And we knew early, before a flake flew over our area here just north of Allentown. Before a single flake came down, we knew we were going to have problems, because that final call was made the night before, and we were able to see this in real time, observe, and say, hey, we got to increase total. So we did adjust, and we adjusted well, but that's part of this process. It's not a graded homework assignment, folks. So if you don't like that, you think it should be that way, and we should just fall by the sword or whatever. I don't know what the cliche is. We're not going to do it. We're going to adjust because we have to, or else we're doing the public a disservice. So let's move beyond that. Again, very cold Thanksgiving coming up here. But after that point, we think we have a slight moderation where we go to slightly above average, near to slightly above average, especially next weekend, early the Monday after. And then that will be very transient. It's a 3 to 4 day period. I think it's closer to 3 now. It's going to be a very minimized transient period. And then we have the cold coming in here after that point for late month. You're looking at the time frame here, 28th, 29th. You can see slightly below average temperatures. Nothing crazy just yet, but these can always trend one way or the other, colder or not. Now, I do want to look at a storm signal here that is shown at this is actually the early part of December. I don't want to rule out the end of November yet, but I think more likely it's going to be early December. But you got this very strong ridging out here in the Gulf of Alaska, and you're going to get used to this. These waters out here where I have that X, very warm. That's going to promote a lot of consistent ridges here and on the west coast. Well, guess what happens? It goes up, west, come down. You have a deep trough here in the eastern United States. This is going to be the norm. Okay, as long as the sea surface temperatures here remain where they are, which are anomalously warm. We saw every time you see that up here with the very warm waters, it promotes ridging, and then a Aleutian low that gets here by the Aleutian Islands as a result of that. So everything that comes up must come down. And then there's a storm signal right here shown for the beginning of December. This is around December 2nd. Now, don't take the date verbatim. I'm just saying the first week of December. I think we're going to get another threat. But if you have something like this with a big dip like this, and you can get a little low pressure forming around the bottom of that, and guess what? Coming up, you get another, and it's going to be snow because it'll be cold. It'll be colder than average at that point, we think. So we got to watch this closely. I think we're coming out of with guns blazing, not only for November. Even if you want to say, hey, that was an anomalous thing and a freak storm, fine. We were still expecting December to be busy to begin with. I mean, so regardless, we're going to start off with a bang. And there are things that support this that suggest that we could get cold and stormy. So here's through the end. I say I've written through the end of November. This actually goes to December 1st. But for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much through the end of the month. So here we are right now. We're sitting over here kind of like in the circle of death or so. The GEFS, which is the GFS and SOLs, are projecting a steady movement through phases 6, 7, and then look at this, goes right into a strong phase 8 signal. Well, phase 8, that's cold. That's cold and stormy. Okay, so we have to watch this. The European model kind of takes it through the circle of death, sort of like this, and then it does to eventually take it into a weaker phase 8 and then 1 signal, kind of like that. Okay, so it's not as pronounced as the GFS, but they both have the same idea that we are going to return at the same time at the end of this period toward a phase 8 and phase 1. They're both cold, doesn't matter. Okay, they're both cold and stormy. And that's the Madden-Julian oscillation. That is a measure of your the placement and strength of your best tropical forcing in the eastern the equatorial Pacific. So we're looking at where that best convection is. Right now it's in the circle of death. We'll get into the Western Pacific eventually, and then we'll propagate eastward to phases 8 and 1, which are very good here in the wintertime for cold and snow. So we'll keep an eye on that. We also have the beginning of December. We're going to see a slight dip of the atmospheric angular momentum to negative, and then it's going to go positive again as projected to by the beginning of December. So we have some more things to lead to more cold into the eastern United States. So we will continue to watch that as we move forward. We do update this. We're going to update this every week and see the changes to check in on El Nino and see where we're at. And the changes from last week, actually, the temperatures in the regions we care about, which are the ones in this block here, 3.4 and 4, still showing us a weak El Nino. But it has dropped. Sea surface temperatures from last week have dropped. This could just be temporary with different Kelvin waves moving through. As different waves move through at different times, you get different readings. So then this is going to change week to week. It probably goes back up again after that. But it did go down a little bit, and it went up actually in Nino 1 and 2, closest to Peruvian coast. So we'll keep an eye on this every week and just give an update on that. But we are still in a weak El Nino territory, even though NOAA doesn't really want to say it in that manner. And that is this area right in the Eastern Pacific, right in here. This the sea surface temperatures relative to average in the equatorial Eastern Pacific. By the way, here, remember I was telling you about that warm blob? Look at that. Look at that. That promotes that ridging I was talking about that you're going to see. And then when you have a ridge like that, you have the big trough. Not that pronounced, but you have a big trough in the east because of this. So that's a big part of it. So just keep that in mind going forward. But this is what we're looking at right now. So I want to summarize largely cooler than average temperatures continue through the Thanksgiving holiday, maybe even Black Friday. I got the transit mile period Black Friday onward. Again, this might be Saturday onward, but it's likely lasting 3 days. And then the cold will return late month, at least a slightly below average. Our next winter storm signal time frame to watch is very late November onward, but more likely early December. I really like the early December time frame right now for a winter storm signal. Now, as far as specifics right now, I mean, today's the 18th, so I'm not going to give you specifics on the storm like that, but there is a signal at least at the beginning of December that we will have come out of the gates firing. Again, if you want to take November's storm that we had, unprecedented storm, and say, hey, that was an anomaly, great. We didn't have it as part of the winter outlook. That's just all gravy, but December, we expect it to be above average anyway. So we think we come out of the gates firing pretty early this year. I did talk about My Pocket Meteorologist. Many of you signed up for that last week. We also have the Progressive web app. This is absolutely free, and you do not have to go to the App Store to download this. This is another thing that we have that we offer for free, the EPAWA app. So from a mobile device, all you have to do is go to your mobile device browser and type in this code. It's HTTPS, and then it's m.epawaweather.com. That's it. So instead of our website is epawaweather.com, just put an M dot in front of it, and then it'll bring you to this, from your mobile browser. Okay, that's where you want to do that. Once it comes up, allow notification detection and location detection and notifications when prompted in order for the functionality of the app to work. You get the full experience of the app that way. If you deny it, you probably won't. You won't be able to get current conditions. It will automatically load for your area. So the GPS location thing, make sure your location's turned on your phone or won't work. And then you can save this to your mobile device home screen for future use and use it just like a native app. The only difference is this will not work when you're offline. Okay, but most people are online all the time anyway. So anyway, this is absolutely free. If we have pertinent information, and I did get away from, my apologies, I got away from this last storm because we were just kind of going crazy with everything. But we do send, we'll start sending the alert notifications out through the app, which will tell you that we have, first call for whatever call we have out. And again, our as far as our winter storm stuff, our first call, final call stuff, probably going to be done. We're just going to say this is our call. Please check back every so often to see if there are changes. I mean, it's the best we're going to do. Hopefully the night before we nail it. That's great. Or even maybe 48 hours before, even better. But sometimes we won't. Okay, so and you have to adjust based on these current conditions once you see things evolving. But we will definitely have it labeled as that this is our call for this storm. And if there are changes, just check back every so often, every couple hours or something, just to see if something changed. But if not, great. If it did and we have to change for a certain area, even if it's only a small area, we will do that. We're not just going to leave it up there and just let it there to ride. I am EPAWA meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies for November 18th, 2018. Hope you join us again next week. We'll take a better look at that storm signal we were looking at late November or early December. Take care.